Alright, hello there, welcome back to another wee bit different video. Today's video, we are going to be doing another NFL weekly video. It's been a while since I've been able to go back to the traditional style of how I do these videos, or NFL weekly in particular, but it's something that I've very much enjoyed as the year has gone on when I've been able to do it. Now, for those of you not familiar with how I do these NFL weekly videos, let me explain very briefly. First half of the video, we just talk about the standings of each team in each division, more so who's dominating what division and who's failing. And then in the second half of the video, which probably is the just bigger portion of the video, if I'm being honest, we talk about three specific teams, why they are having success and why they aren't having success. And yeah, that's pretty much gonna sum up the video. But anyway, let's get straight into it. Looking at the AFC East, Dolphins at 5-2, Bills 4-3, Jets 3-3, Patriots 2-5. Now, I did want to talk briefly about the Dolphins because I will not be talking about them in the second half of the video. If we just go on their schedule, right, you're like, oh, 5-2 is a really good record. Let's look very briefly. Who have they really beaten that's like, damn, this is insane? So they beat the Chargers, but the Chargers are what, 2-4? They beat the Patriots. Okay, Patriots are 2-5. Beat the Broncos. Okay, Broncos are 1-5, 2-5. I want to say they're 2-5. Bills and Dolphins, they got destroyed by the Bills. Giants and Dolphins, they beat the Giants. Panthers, they beat the Panthers. Eagles, they lose to the Eagles. So if you look at the whole schedule, they've only played two elite teams. And both elite teams, they've lost convincingly. Like if you watch this Eagles game, they were down the whole game. Same with the Bills. After tying it 14-14, the Dolphins really had no answer, and their defense just couldn't get a stop at all. So all in all, I'm a little worried about the Dolphins and seeing how they can compete against really good teams. Granted, they've played those two elite teams away, so maybe they're just better at home. Couple of things to take note of is Jalen Ramsey. They're going to be getting him back soon, which is really important. Also, Xavier Howard, he's been out. So when they get those two back defensively, you'd have to imagine they get a big boost. Bills on the other side of things, man, they're 4-3, but they're capable of beating any elite team. But they're also capable of losing to some really bad teams, losing to the Giants, for example. Like who did they even lose to? The Patriots most recently. Like, man, not good. Jets sitting at 3-3 though. Patriots 2-5. Trying to resurrect their season. I don't think they will, but they're trying. We got the Chiefs here, 6-1, won 6 in a row. Raiders at 3-4. They just lost to the Bears without Justin Fields. Absolute disaster over there. Chargers 2-4. Oh man, everything that can go wrong will go wrong with the Chargers, whether it's their offensive shortcomings or defensive shortcomings. Most of the time, both coming up short. Broncos 2-5 though. Talking about the AFC North, this is an intensely tight division with the race. I talked about it in my YouTube short. I said this would be a really tight race on the AFC North, and I wasn't wrong. Honestly, I really wasn't. I don't like tooting my horn all the time, but my goodness, Ravens 5-2, Steelers 4-2, Browns 4-2, Bengals 3-3, and we know what they're capable of when they can get the ball rolling. And that's because Browns are doing all this without a competent QB. Steelers, you could say the same thing without a competent QB. The only elite QBs in this division are Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, but they're all still really solid teams, honestly. We'll talk about it more, but yeah, this is going to be intense. Finishing it up on the AFC side with the AFC South, Jaguars at 5-2, Colts 3-4, with Texans 3-3 because they just had a bye. Titans 2-4. Going into the NFC side of things, the NFC East top two teams are a problem. Eagles are insane. I think they're the best team in the NFL right now. Cowboys are really good. Problem is though is just consistency, man. They just got to really nail the consistency. Commanders are rough, man. Sam Howell's taking too many sacks. A lot of that is his fault though, holding onto the ball for way too goddamn long. Giants 2-5, catching a W with Tyrod Taylor. My goodness. The Niners on the NFC West blowing 2 games in a row, opening the door for the Seahawks. Seahawks fans, I don't think you guys are going to pull out this division, but it's making things closer, that's for sure. So if game 1, Seahawks lose to the Rams, then they beat the Lions, which is a great win. Beat the Panthers, beat the Giants, lose to the Bengals, but beat the Cards. Really, they've won the games they've been expected to win, aside from, what game was it? the Rams game. They were expected to win, but they didn't. But the teams they have beaten, the Lions is really the only good win here, to be honest. But like I said, they're making the division tighter, which is always entertaining, even as a outside person looking in. Rams 3-4. Going to the NFC North here, Lions 5-2, Vikings 3-4, Packers 2-4, Bears 2-5. I've said it already, and I'll say it again. Jordan Love, even after week 1, did not look like the real deal. I wasn't sold at all, and they've lost 3 in a row, and he's just looked bad, to be honest. This team's just looked like a wreck. If you want to talk about the Lions, though, leading the division, they've looked great outside of that Ravens game where they just got their asses whooped. Couldn't stop Lamar Jackson at all. They had no answer for him, whether he was scrambling, buying time in the pocket, or whether he was just slinging it from the get. Like, they just had no answer. And offensively, they just got shut out. Not literally shut out, but they got shut down, dude. They couldn't do really much. Vikings, though, finally turning it around, winning 2 in a row. Kirk Cousins looked really good. Past game against the Niners, slinging it to Jordan Addison. Slinging it to TJ Hawkinson. I played TJ Hawkinson on fantasy this week, so please, just for this week alone, just don't beat him don't beat him any touchdowns, dude. I really can't afford to lose in fantasy this week. Just like the Vikings, I am also 3-4, so I would really appreciate if the Vikings could just say, hey, TJ, not today, buddy, not today. Falcons 4-3, Buccaneers 3-3, Saints 3-4, Panthers 0-6. Panthers, expectation is that they're out of this division. That's been the expectation since really the beginning of the season. Saints need to pull it together. It's a headache to watch this team, man. Derek Carr clearly playing through injury, clearly not right. Chris Olave giving up on routes. Even then, just not being able to finish in the red zone, not being able to do much when your defense hits you up for success. It's insane. Buccaneers struggling madly on offense. Their defense is really solid, I'll say that much, but I don't know. People like I will always praise Baker Mayfield for his effort and for how much he gives to this team, but they haven't had a game of 30 or more points yet. Lost to the Falcons 6-13, lost to the Bucks 6-20, beat the Saints 26-9, lost to the Eagles 25-11, beat the Bears 27-17. Like, they haven't scored 30 once yet. I just don't think this offense is. And again, they've played the Bears, so you know they've had opportunities. All right, back with the second half of the video. In this half of the video, we're gonna dive into those 3 teams I was talking about. But before we do, one key thing I want to clarify before we just dive straight into it. I want to have a new format with how I do this, and it's nothing major, but I just want to talk about the 3 teams. But with the 3 teams, I want to have 5 bullet points of important headlines that I really want to talk about, that I think will make or break this team, or I think is really important about this team that's holding them back or pushing them forward. So what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it moving forward is, first 2 bulletin points are going to be pros, right? Positives. The next 2, which are 3 and 4 of the bulletin points, are going to be negatives, things that are bad, things that are no bueno. The 5th is the question that you really have to ask. You really have to ask in order for this team to evolve to a contender or evolve to a positive future. What I mean by that is what you'll have to see when I talk about it, because I'm sure that's a little bit confusing, but you'll understand what I mean when we get there. Anyway, let's dive straight into our first team. Drum roll, please. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, first thing I want to talk about is the receiving duo in George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Now, there's a lot to be said about George Pickens and there's a lot to be said about Deontay Johnson, but as a duo, they complement each other so very well, because George Pickens is your one-on-one guy. Throw it to him if you don't see a safety over the top, or if you don't see any help, literally one-on-one. Reason why is because George Pickens is great at catches and coverage. He's great at making all the tight and contested catches. Reason being because his body is so huge, big, strong dude. And honestly, he's shown time and time again that he can make that play, whether it's an over-the-shoulder catch or whether he has to go up, make some sort of one-handed or two-handed. But, when the defender's in your grill, you have to be able to hold on to the ball and bring it down. George Pickens is capable of that time and time and time again. Great deep threat too because of that. But also, on the flip side, when you have someone like that on your team, you need someone who can run crisp routes and just get open without having to worry too much about, oh, is this person going to be making tight catches all the time? Can he create space? Because George Pickens isn't the best space creator. That falls into Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, he'll create a window of space, an opening for Kenny Pickett to see, to where he's like, oh, right there. Let me just throw it right in that window. And as soon as he catches it, Deontay Johnson is so good at run after the catch. Reason being is because he's so shifty. When it comes to the route running, this dude is just super crisp, super clean. So the two complement each other very well. Again, George Pickens being that deep threat guy, being that contested catches kind of guy. Hey, if he's one-on-one, you throw it to him kind of guy. But you don't always have to throw tight throws. You don't always have to make it complicated. That's what you have Deontay Johnson for on the other side of things. Definitely there to, again, run those crisp routes, be open, make the plays easier for Kenny Pickett. Now, second bullet point I want to talk about is their defense. Their defense is absolutely elite. They force fumbles. They force turnovers. That Pittsburgh defense is super clutch. Not only that, they are super elite in the trenches. They know how to get to the rusher or whoever has the ball and literally force a fumble, have their hands ready. They lead the league in forced fumbles, recovering 6 of them. And they do have a touchdown or 2, I believe, on the season as a defense. I believe. Don't quote me on that one, but I'm just trying to, think memory here. But anyway, that defense with TJ Watt leading the way is absolutely insane. Like, that Ravens game, there's no reason why the Steelers should have won that game. They had no business winning that game. But what the defense does is they constantly just apply pressure to the quarterback, constantly make big plays, whether it's a sack or an interception. And I use the word constantly because that is the key word in this. Their offense is not consistent. Their offense is lackluster. The one thing that has been steady for them every single game, aside from the first game, is their defense. So you have to spam that word. You have to make it clear as day, like, yeah, dude, honestly, their defense is insane. And that's the one thing that's keeping them at a positive record. Because if this was just their offense, they would be 0 and whatever. That's how bad their offense has been. But again, talking about the receiving duo with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, now that Deontay's there, it'll help a lot. So we'll see how it goes. I think the offense can be better from here on out with Deontay Johnson back. Third bulletin point, which I want to talk about, really, this one might not be as relevant because of Deontay Johnson's return, but I don't think it's going to change a lot, and that is the lack thereof offense. They get a lot of 3-and-outs. They run the ball with Najee Harris for 1 yard, then Jaylen Warren catch for 2 yards, then Kenny Pickett incomplete to George Pickens or whomever, and 3-and-out. And it's just too often. You're putting too much strain on your defense, making them go out there way too much. They don't really develop any drives. They don't get anything going. It is really, really bad, right? You can't rely on George Pickens to make a great play just for you guys to have a drive. You can't rely on Najee Harris having to break 3-4 tackles just for a 20-yard run. Like, dude, it's really, really, really bad. I don't know if it's play calling with Matt Canada. Most people will attribute it to that. But to be honest with you, I think it's a factor of things, maybe even including Matt Canada. But ultimately, with their defense being as elite as they are, their offense, all they have to do is just be decent. Really, that's all they have to do. With Deontay Johnson back, though, it's going to help a lot. But the lack thereof offense is really killing them, which is going to lead me to number 4 on the bulletin point. No run game. Like, at all. Najee Harris, there's no holes. Like, I encourage people to just turn on the Steelers game and just watch. Just see where Najee has to run. Honestly, it looks like there's nowhere to go. Like, nowhere. The dude is running 1 yard into contact, or sometimes at the line of scrimmage, he's running into contact. Jaylen Warren, same thing. Like, it is amazing how little holes they have. And what I mean by amazing, I mean disastrous. Like, it is so awful. Like, I want to pull up their rushing stats up to this point in time. Let's see. In terms of rushing, I'll tell you guys right now, they are 28th in the league with rushing yards. Meaning, yeah, they don't run the ball very well. So my goodness, man, that's just got to change. Their run game is completely lackluster, and it doesn't help out when Kenny Pickett is not just a shotgun kind of quarterback where he can just be slinging the ball. Like, no, you do have to scheme some guys open for him to get going. How do you do that? By setting up the play action. How do you set up the play action? By getting the run game going. So when you can't get the run game going, it's just a disaster all around. It's a huge disaster all around. But anyway, this is going to lead me to the fifth and final bulletin point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. History shows Mike Tomlin can pull through. What I mean by that is the dude is a winner through and through. As a head coach, he has had success in leading this team with or without a good quarterback to an opportunity at winning. They don't always pull through with the win or getting to the playoffs, but they always have a chance. History shows that they always give themselves a chance. And I know what you're thinking. Ben Roethlisberger was a good QB back in the day. Yeah, but in the twilight of his career, dude is really bad. Dude is really struggling. Couldn't really throw it very far. Their offense was extremely lackluster. They had Le'Veon Bell, which helped out a lot, of course, and then Najee Harris's rookie season when Ben was there for his last season. But their offense, past 3 years now, has not been good at all. But history shows that Mike Tomlin has and will pull through in giving this team an opportunity at the very least, right? The very least. Anyway, enough about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about the drum roll, please. We got the Baltimore Ravens, their second team. Now, first thing you have to say, really, when talking about this team is the dual offense. What I mean by that is the ability to run and throw the ball. Obviously, Lamar Jackson leading the way. But whether it's Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell had one carry, but he looked really fast. So I'm curious to see how they're going to roll him out in the upcoming weeks. But the offense just is completely elite, right? You have receivers in Zay Flowers, Odell, Bateman, Mark Andrews being old reliable, right? It's just a steady dose of everything. And then Lamar Jackson being the guy to deliver on the run game, because if he's not able to scramble the way he is, obviously it completely caps their ceiling. And the way he's been throwing lately makes you think like, holy hell, why didn't more teams pursue this guy when they had a chance? Like, they should have offered Lamar a contract, even if the Ravens could match. Like, dude, he is insane. The way this offense rolls is absolutely elite. The way you saw it with the Lions. Now, I don't want to talk about any bad thing just yet, but it all really falls onto Lamar. If Lamar's got it that day, break it in, dude. I mean, granted, he did make some great throws against the Steelers. His receivers just dropped it. So, yeah, I mean, it is a team execution kind of thing, but this offense can be extremely deadly, as you guys saw against the Lions. Second bulletin point I want to talk about is defense has been limiting opponents. And what I want to pull up here, well, you guys won't see it, but I'll see it at the very least, and I can mention it. Their defense, has been limiting opponents' offenses to low points. So week 1 against the Texans had 9 points. Week 2 against the Bengals did have 24 points, right? But that's as high as it's going to get for the rest of the season. And that's because 24, the most you've allowed 7 games through. That's impressive as hell. But anyway, week 3 against the Colts, 22. But the Ravens took that game to overtime. They had time and time opportunity to win that game. They just choked. Plus, they allowed 2 fumbles. 2 turnovers. They gave Colts a chance to have field goals. They only allowed 1 touchdown that game. Anyway, against the Browns only had 3 points. Against the Steelers had a defensive touchdown, I believe. I'm pretty sure. I'm positive. Let me fact check this before I look dumb. Okay, no, the Steelers had a safety, right? So really, the offense scored 15 points, but that's a great outing. Titans scored 16 points, another great outing. Lions scored 6 points. Like, their defense has been really, really elite at limiting opponents to, if they do make a drive, they're only going to get a field goal out of it. Like, really, this Ravens defense has been impressive through and through, and it's really setting themselves up for success, because if your offense has it going, there's no team that can stop you. Third point here, this might not be a negative, but it's something that I wanted to bring up, and it's not necessarily a positive. Is Coach Harbaugh too safe? And what I mean by that is, this dude, 4th and 2, 4th and 3, he has not really cared to go for it, right? Really trusting his defense. And can you blame the guy? No. But there comes a point in time where you have to go for it. Against teams like the Chiefs or the Bills, where their offense is just not going to stop rolling, you really have to make those decisions and say, Lamar, dude, take us home. Like, really take us home. This is going to have to be something that you approach with every team differently, because when you're against the Texans, you don't need to go for it, right? They haven't played nothing but elite teams, of course. But again, there comes a point in time to where you can't be too safe. And Coach Harbaugh is known to be very, very safe with his decision makings, more particularly about going for it and just electing to kick field goals instead of trusting his offense. Anyway, fifth and final question on the bulletin point, really fifth and final thing, is how far can Lamar take them? That'll dictate how the season goes. How far can he take them? It is up to him whether this team can make that next step. Reason being is because when he is on, he is on. He's throwing and slinging the ball everywhere with immense accuracy, and he is scrambling, creating time for himself in the pocket, but also for yards, past the line of scrimmage, of course. So how far can Lamar take them? You know, you have Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham, Bateman. Really, Odell and Bateman are injury concerns because, you know, they're prone to injury, but Zay Flowers is a really good receiver. He's shown 7 games in that he's going to be there and he's going to create openings. And can Lamar hit him? There's been a couple of times where Lamar, or more than a couple of times where Lamar has missed some key throws, but is this going to be the big question throughout the season, is how far can Lamar take them? Personally, I think they can go deep into the playoffs. How deep? Honestly, they're Super Bowl contenders and they should make the conference championships. That's how deep. On to the third and final team. Drum roll, please. We got the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I understand that some people have mixed feelings about this team. They're 3-4. They look shaky. They're without Justin Jefferson. They did have a good game against the Niners, but what exactly is there to talk about with this team, right? They're just inconsistent. Well, I'll give you 5 things to talk about, damn it. Thing number 1, new star receiver Jordan Addison actually looking like the real deal. You know, I didn't think a rookie receiver again could come out looking this spicy and ready to go, but dude is on fire, man. He's absolutely taking the challenge with Justin Jefferson being out, giving Kirk Cousins someone to throw to, and with that 60-yard catch against, what was it, Ward? I don't remember the first name, but Ward on the Niners DB. First interception of the game, Kirk Cousins throws it to Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison kind of catches it, but kind of doesn't, and Ward ends up taking the ball away. On that second opportunity to where they're fighting for the ball, again, that 60-yard throw, Kirk Cousins throws it. Boom. Jordan Addison sees that Ward catches the ball first, and then he has to really fight for that, pulls it out of his hands and says, nope, not this time, then gets that scoring. Beautiful play. Really just shows that this dude's learning on the fly, but learning very well. Seriously, he's learning very well, and he had a career night, and you really can't say how good he can be when Justin Jefferson does come back, because it'll only open him up even more. The second bulletin point here, the Vikings are always capable of keeping things close, meaning they will always be within striking distance. And if you want a number behind that statement, well, every single game this season has been a 1-possession game, whether they won or they've lost by. It's all been 1 possession, meaning they're always going to keep things close. It's what they do. They're for the dramatic. They're for the drama, the theater, the flair, dare I say. Anyway, Kirk Cousins. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's a him thing, if it's this team thing, but they just can't seem under any circumstance to just dominate a team, just pull away with the victory. And they're always, no matter how much they're down by, they're going to claw back. So it's like, it's not a good thing, to be honest. I mean, it is a good thing that you're always going to claw back, but it's not a good thing that every game is a 1-score game, because it shows that you're just not able to win convincingly, and you're matching the other team's skill level. You shouldn't always match another team's skill level. Now, if the team's just flat out better than you, yeah, match their level. If the team is flat out worse than you, you should never want to match their level. You should want to just dominate. And that team has not been able to do that. But the good thing about it, at the very least, is that they're always going to give their effort against any team, right? Because they always can. And they always have this 7 games into this season, all being 1-possession games. Bulletin point number 3, too many mistakes. And what I mean by that is untimely fumbles, untimely interceptions. It has eaten the Vikings every goddamn game. There's just way too many turnovers. at way too inconvenient times. I mean, granted, when is there a convenient time to not turn it over? I'll give you a convenient time when you're dominating by like 3-4+ possessions. But considering that the Vikings never want to dominate, there is no convenient time to turn it over. A turnover in all facets of the game is just bad when it's all close and tight, and any turnover can swing the pendulum of success, right? So it's like, or the tides of battle, or the momentum. Like, it's just limit your mistakes, guys. There's just too many. There is too many mistakes. Hold on to the ball, and Kirk's got to limit the interceptions. Mostly, I think fumbles are the problem, though, to be honest. Bulletin point number 4 is Justin Jefferson needs to be back. This team will always be limited as to how good they can be without a dude of that caliber. Like, he is just flat out top 3 receiver in the game. You could argue Tyreek, you could argue Justin Jefferson. Shit, you could argue Cooper Kupp, but Justin Jefferson, honestly, in my opinion, is top 2. I think it's him or Tyreek Hill for number 1. You could go either way, but Jesus, man, like, Justin Jefferson is just always open. You know how Jamar Chase said he's always open? Well, Justin Jefferson is always open, always taking up Kirk's targets. And the thing is, with Jordan Addison emerging, it only helps even more because defenses will have to really focus in on both of them, which will help the run game even more, right? Anytime you have threats on the passing game, it opens up the run game. That's what happens. People get doubled, and now you have an extra hole, right? Something to do on the rushing side of things, because their rushing offense isn't spectacular. Alexander Madison and Cam Akers, you know, not the best running backs, but I think with Justin Jefferson back, this team would be significantly better, even though they've managed to win 2 in a row. But 100% though, he needs to come back as soon as possible. He's really a necessity for this team to have success. Thing number 5 that's the most important, I think this is the biggest question, is how lucky can the Vikings get? They got really lucky last season with all of the 1-score games. Some might not call it luck, right? Some might say, well, that was absolutely skill. Well, sure, but in the playoffs, it beat in the ass because you had another 1-score game that you lost. 1-score games, you don't always want to put yourself in a position to get in those, because now there's too many obstacles to overcome. Being one, refs. We don't want to talk about how refs can dictate a game, but when you're in 1-score games, chances are they're going to dictate at least one of those with some sort of call, and that's just not good. 2, you're just applying too much pressure on yourself, man. Humans make mistakes. Humans slip up. In 1-score games, that is peak pressure, especially in the playoffs. Like, mistakes happen, dude. You can't always rely on barely getting away. You gotta have to want to win convincingly. And with the Vikings, that's just the question. Can they get lucky and win that many close games? I don't think so. And I think history has shown that no team can just win 1-score games. Teams gotta at some point win convincingly. Like, look at the Dolphins. I know that they're 5-2, but those 5 wins, they've won. Oh, sorry, those 4 of the 5 wins, they've pretty much won by blowouts, right? Now they just got to be able to take on elite teams, but they're still winning. They're still putting themselves in a position to make a playoff run. As to where the Vikings, it's just getting scary out here. But anyway, super long NFL Weekly that I recorded. I don't know what the final cut down edited version is going to look like. But as always, I appreciate you guys for watching. This is I'll Even Different. I'm We Even Different. And we out.